Hello, this is Russ Walden with Father's Heart Ministry. Welcome to the Morning Light Daily Bible Study. Today we are studying Exodus chapter 6. The Lord encourages Moses. If you were Moses, you'd need some encouragement too. In chapter 6 of Exodus, Moses is discouraged. He doesn't see any way forward in the midst of the crisis at hand. And God had sent him to Pharaoh, but the king shows no sign of giving in. In fact, he's getting worse. He's threatening God's people. He's refusing to let them go. What about you? Have you ever stepped out in faith only to see things get worse in your situation? Well, this study today will greatly encourage you. We're going to read the entirety of Exodus chapter 6 to begin with. Then the Lord said to Moses, How shall you see, now you shall see what I will do to Pharaoh. For with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. Didn't quite happen the way, though, Moses hoped it would. And God said unto Moses, and said unto him, I am the Lord, and I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob by the name of God Almighty, but by my name Jehovah was I not known unto them. And I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, who the Egyptians keep in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. Wherefore say to the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. And I will take you to me for a people. And I will be to you a God, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God, which brings you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. And I will bring you into the land concerning which I did swear to give it to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, and I will give it to you for a heritage, for I am the Lord. And Moses spake so to the children of Israel, but they hearkened not unto Moses for anguish of spirit and for the cruel bondage they were suffering. And the Lord spake to Moses, saying, Go in unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that he let the children of Israel go out of his house. And Moses spake before the Lord, saying, Behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened to me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips? And the Lord spake to Moses and unto Aaron, and gave them a charge for the children of Israel and for the king of Egypt, to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. These be the heads of the fathers' houses, the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanok, and Palu, and Hezron, and Carmi. These be the families of Reuben. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel, and Jamin, Ohad, and Jachin, and Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanitish woman. These are the families of Simeon. These are the names of the sons of Levi according to their generations, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the years of the life of Levi were 137 years. The sons of Gershon, Libni, Shimei, according to their families, and the sons of Kohath, Amram, Izhar, and Hebron, and Uziel, and the years of the life of Kohath were 133 years. And the sons of Merari, Mahali, and Mushai, these are the families of Levi according to their generations. And Amram took him Jochebed, his father's sister, to wife, and she bare him Aaron and Moses. And the years of the life of Amram were 130 years. And the sons of Izhar, Korah, and Nepheg, and Zikri, and the sons of Uziel, Mishael, and Elzaphan, and Zithri. And Aaron took him Elisheba, daughter of Aminadab, sister of Naashon, to wife, and she bare him Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These are the sons of Korah, Asir, Elkanah, and Ebisath. These are the sons of the Korhites. And Eleazar, Aaron's son, took him one of the daughters of Putiel to wife, and she bare him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the Levites according to their families. These are that Aaron and Moses, to whom the Lord said, bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, according to their armies. These are they which spake to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring out the children of Israel from Egypt. These are that Moses and Aaron. And it came to pass on the day when the Lord spake unto Moses in the land of Egypt, that the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I am the Lord, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that say unto thee. And Moses said before the Lord, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips, and how shall Pharaoh hearken unto me? It's interesting back here in verse 20, and Amram took Jochebed, his father's sister, to wife, and she bare him Aaron. So Moses' parents, according to that verse, were nephew and aunt. Amram took his father's sister Jochebed to wife. It's also can be pointed out that Abraham married Sarai, who was his half-sister. And both of those things are strictly prohibited. To marry your aunt or to marry your sister or half-sister is strictly prohibited in the book of Leviticus. So these are people up to this point, before the law was given, living under a different set of cultural norms than that which God establishes just a short time later when Moses gathers the people around the Mount of God and the law is given. And it speaks to us about the fact that the law came from God and not from Moses, because he gave laws that repudiated even his own parentage. So back to verse 1. In the last few verses of the previous chapter, Moses is crying out to God because he's afraid of Pharaoh and he doesn't have any confidence in himself. And the people are complaining. They're demonstrating against him. And it's true that God will often call you, like he called Moses, into situations that look like it's really going to go well, and then the exact opposite happens at the beginning. And so how does God deal with Moses in this discouragement? Well, he doesn't rebuke him. You can look at the first 5 verses of chapter 6 here. The Lord doesn't rebuke Moses for his unbelief, but he just kind of ignores that and begins to encourage him. He says, now you're going to see what's going to become of Pharaoh. It's as though in God's mind, things had to get to this point, going from bad to worse, in order to set the stage for what was about to happen. The Lord doesn't address at this point any of Moses' complaints or any of the complaints of the people. He simply says to Moses, and has Moses say to the people, this is your now time of deliverance. And he says, you will see with your eyes what he is going to do, what the Lord is going to do to Pharaoh. And he's speaking these assurances that the king will comply. Not just let them go, but literally drive them out of Egypt with a strong hand. And the Father makes this declarative statement in verse 1, and then he underscores it in verse 2, reiterating that he is the Lord and that Pharaoh is not in charge of what happens next. God is. Now, what about your situation? Have you ever been threatened or come against by controlling people? Perhaps a family member or an employer. Maybe people around you that don't like what you're doing or planning, and they don't care if you think it's God or not. You may have people around you that make it clear that if you do what you say God's telling you to do, that you're going to be their enemy. And if you don't do what they say, you're going to face consequences. They'll bring consequences against you. Always remember that the adversary isn't going to roll over and play dead just because you say Jesus. Remember that the adversary, however, does not get the last say. Remember God's words to Moses in verse 2, I am the Lord. In other words, that person, that little strutting little Pharaoh in your life, they're not in charge. The Father goes on then in verse 3 and 4 to remind Moses of his past faithfulness to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. He also makes the point to Moses that though he moved greatly in the patriarchs' lives, that even at that, they didn't know him by Jehovah God. We could talk a lot about that. They knew him as Elohim. Jehovah God was a concept that was only introduced at this point in the scriptural narrative. And so he's giving Moses to know that it's a new day and a more profound covenantal, because Jehovah is God's covenantal name, a covenantal revelation of the Father's faithfulness coming forth at this time that Moses can trust in and for the people to rely on. He's heard, verse 5, why? He's heard the groaning of the people of God in Egypt. And let me tell you something, he's heard your groaning too in your situation. And as he brought them out from under their burdens of the Egyptians, even so he's going to rid you of the bondage in your life. He's going to bring you out of captivity with an outstretched arm and with great judgments, just like he promises Moses and the people in bondage in Egypt. Now, again, this new name by which God is making himself known shows us what to expect in times of great struggle in our lives. As God revealed himself to Moses in the midst of a tough time by a new and unknown name, even so, when you are in trouble, when you can't see any answers or any way out, God is going to make himself known to you in a new way. Not in the bondage, but to bring you out of the bondage. Not to just keep you in that difficult place, but to get you out of the struggle. He will never leave you where you are, but he brings you out in unfolding revelation of this person. He'll bring you out. Be quiet, because you belong to him. That as he was Moses and the children of Israel's God, he is your God. He is your God, that you might know that he isn't just God. He says, I am your God. I am the Lord your God, and he's in charge, and not all those people giving you a hard time. So with these encouragements, Moses is instructed again to go to Pharaoh in verse 11. And the assurance is given that Pharaoh will let the people go. And Moses does make a complaint at this point. He says, the people aren't listening. Why would Pharaoh listen? The answer that God gives really isn't specified at this point, but just simply that God hands these instructions down as a charge. At this point, God is just blowing past Moses' objections, because God's going to be faithful even if Moses can't figure that out. He's going to be faithful to Moses, he's going to be faithful to Aaron and the children of Israel to deal with Pharaoh. He gives the charge. The charge was given to Moses to go. The charge was given to the children of Israel to trust. The charge is given to Pharaoh to release them. That word charge means to command. It implies marching orders. In other words, Moses may still be unsure, but God's through arguing about it. The kingdom of God is not a democracy, and it's not a debate club. Remember that when you are up against a wall, there's a point when God's promise becomes marching orders for you, and there's no more conversation. Now, what if Moses had not followed through with what God told him to do? Many people hear from God, and they refuse to act on what they hear. And then you'll find that person years later, and nothing has changed for them. They're in the stuck place. And then if you ask them, they say, well, I'm waiting to hear from God. Well, did you obey the last thing God told you to do? If Moses had done this, the people would not have been delivered. When God speaks, you have to act. Well, I don't want to make a mistake. Well, God even makes your mistakes to prosper. What's your problem? Moses complained time and again about what God told him to do. But there comes a point in time that you have to stop complaining and you have to take action. Are you ready to take God at his word? Are you ready to stop asking questions and start taking action? Eventually, Moses got it right. Eventually, the miracles were made manifest, in spite of the fact Moses complained, not because he complained. Not because he complained, but because he acted. Are you ready to act? God's kingdom is voice activated, and God's kingdom is motion activated. And this is your time to take action. And if you'll take action, God's no respecter of persons, my friend, but he is a respecter of faith. If you will take action, if you will do with your faith what Moses did with his faith in his situation, you're going to see the same results, and you'll come out of your captivity and you'll bring some loved ones with you. God bless you.